Oh, gnarly, dude. Looks like you just went overboard.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Overboard. I'm your host, Jenny.
And I'm Anthony.
And today we're doing another episode of What's Up With That, where we review what happened in the month prior. Obviously, we're running a little late. On this month, so bear with us. We're going over June.
It's been rough. June has been a really rough month, and I don't know. I don't know if you agree with me. Obviously,
for sure.
We moved in the month of June, and there was a lot going on, and then just like the world just got real angry real quick, and everybody's just, I don't know. We're going to get into it.
It's definitely arguably one of the worst months
of 2020
of
so
2020.
Far. And we've had a lot of bad months, but I don't know, this is just the most negative month of 2020.
It's
so
both
far.
The most negative and the most positive in a way. It's very does that make sense at all?
No,
it's negative,
yeah,
but it's also there's
what
positive
we're about
things
to talk about, right?
Yeah. So I guess we'll just get into it. We're gonna.
It's the most negatively positive month of 2020.
Literally. Yeah. So I guess we'll just start with for those who haven't listened to our past podcast, you'll know that Anthony and a little bit of myself are very big fans of EDM. And in the month of June, it came out that Bassnectar is being accused of sexual assault.
Yeah, he's got a trigger warning for anybody, listening. But right now, Bassnectar, or Lauren Ashton, who's one of the largest performers in bass music, it came out that he has, potentially sexually abused many young fans, and there's been a couple cases reported where the girls were under the age of 18, and he was trying to groom them, which for anybody who doesn't know what grooming is where a pedophile or somebody older and of age forms a relationship with a minor and tries to make it positive, flirts with them. But grooming is where a pedophile will build a relationship with the underage minor, and then once that minor becomes of age, then they attempt to have sex with them. It's kind of confusing in itself. But anyway, he's got allegations out about and claims were made against him that, he was having these somewhat abusive and I guess, predatory relationships with young fans and taking advantage of them.
Which is horrible, especially because he is probably one of the biggest EDM what do you want to call that, stars?
I would say he's probably he is probably the biggest as far as following and events and the amount of money he has flowing through him. He definitely is one of the largest, at least in the bass music scene. There's still house music and all that, but as far as dubstep and heavier bass music, he's the guy. He's got one of the largest followings. Every time he throws a curated event, it's 20,000 plus people just there for him.
Yeah.
Which
so it's kind of sad that these allegations are coming out because like that just shows like he's using his power and influence for like, you know, negative stuff,
Right. Like, and I mean,
abusing his power, I guess.
it's definitely an abuse of power at the end of the day. And it's like, it's wrong. And I hope that the victims that are speaking out can feel at peace.
And know that the EDM community is supporting them too.
Yeah. And
like
yeah,
I've seen so many posts from like EDM like Twitter accounts and stuff saying that they're
Right.
like denouncing him and stuff. So like it's important that they know that they're being supported and like not,
No, definitely.
you know,
Like
called.
we're not just, you know, they're not being shamed, and now they have a platform to speak about their experiences. So in essence, this is definitely hopefully making the EDM community better in a way. But it's really sad because again, like, you know, I was a huge Bassnectar fan. Like the production and the absolute energy and feeling that Lauren Ashton and his team could put into their curated events and their shows is unparalleled. Like there's only a few artists out there who I think could even match the production and overall mixing style. Like Excision's one of those artists. He can match the team's production, but that's not what like going to Nectar shows were about, you know, at least for me. And I think a lot of the Bassnectar community could agree with this. A Bassnectar show, when you were going to a curated event, yeah, it was about the music. Yeah, it was about, you know, Lauren Ashton and his team, like absolutely going batshit crazy with their production and giving you the best show you could imagine. But it was about the community. And that's what's so hard about this is like the amount of love and appreciation and just connection that I think Bassnectar's fans like mutually feel with each other is unrivaled in the EDM scene. I think it's a very, very tight knit group. And, you know, like Bassnectar fans get a lot of a bad rap because there are some people who are very cringeworthy, but they definitely don't define most bass heads. And yeah, it's still so hard and sad because, you know, and it's even, I want to say it's hard to believe that Lauren Ashton would do give in to sexual abuse and be a proprietor of that. Cause he, like, I was saying this like time and time again, like his whole platform, like most of his career, or at least of his ultra famous career, he has always used his voice. And he would always used his voice to speak out against injustice. He's spoken out many times about sexual abuse. He's spoken against racism. He's spoken against bigotry. He's spoken against, you know, like just absolute hate on all forms. And he's always been very vocal about, you know, calling out injustice where it lies. And that's why this is one of those things, and it's just so hard for the community because it's like
to have looked up to somebody like that. And
yeah,
just to hear...
he just had such a positive voice. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to believe that someone who has constantly spoken out about this kind of stuff
perpetrating it
is you know, the one who's perpetrating it.
It's just one of those things, like, not even just like Bassnectar, but EDM. Like when you first like took me to my first show, I don't like going to concerts, and I'm always super nervous and anxious about it. And like, I'm always like scared that I'm going to get like separated from the group or whatever. But when you took me to my first EDM show, it was like I felt comfortable with everybody around me because that's just the vibe that everybody gives off. Like if you get separated from a group, you're going to have people come up to you and be like, are you okay? Like, let me help you find your group. Like, it's not going to be like one of those things where you're scared something's going to happen.
Right.
So the fact that these things were happening behind the scenes, like, is just kind of like scary.
It's scary. And it's I'm glad that our community, the EDM community, can, you know, come together and say, hey, this is not the kind of behavior we want within the scene, and we don't want it to represent us. You know, like it makes me happy to see that the community is continuing to try and preserve a safe space for each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of the most heartbreaking things, you know, for me as of recently, because it's just, I met a lot of amazing people through Bassnectar. I met a lot of amazing friends, especially within this year, like, and we're gonna have to find some other artists now to go flock to and
yeah,
get ratchet at. So yeah, but it's negative. It's one of those negative things that happen, but it's positive because, you know, hopefully the victims are getting some restitution.
And not only that, but it's like allowing, like, people coming out about it is also making it more of not as a how do I put this? Not as scary of a thing for other people to come out.
Right.
About,
yeah.
Like,
because I think that's the biggest
assault.
thing. Most people are afraid to use their voice and talk about this kind of stuff. But, you know, it's important at the end of the day. And I just hope that the victims and those coming forward kind of get get comfort, you know. So
speaking of the music industry, just a couple weeks ago, or not even a week ago, I don't think, Kanye announced that he is running for president. And what is with these stars thinking that they can be president? Like, stay in your lane.
Okay, so I don't know what you think about it, but like, as you know, we're still talking about sexual abuse and sexual assault here. As of right now, you know, I don't think Kanye has any sexual assault allegations.
Okay, but
Biden does, and Trump does.
No, I know. None of them are good choices, but what I'm saying is I don't understand why people that have never, like, don't have the experience they need to become president just think that they can run for president and be good at it. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
like,
that's kind
okay,
of just
cool.
the way
You
it's
started
set up.
a successful business. Like, that doesn't mean you're fit to run a whole country. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, yeah, Kanye has like 20 different businesses and they're all doing fine, but like,
and he's like a super multimillionaire.
But he's not fit to run the country.
But this is my thing. You know, Kanye has had a lot of questionable things he's done in the past. You know, when he came out on television and said that George Bush hates black people, when he interrupted Taylor Swift and told Taylor Swift she didn't deserve her award, you know, when he was acting all crazy before that with the whole Yeezus thing. But this is what is enticing, and I know this is ignorant, like this is just me being stupid, but like, again, no sexual assault allegations that I know of.
Okay.
I'm not well researched. Someone wants to hit me with a brick and like correct me, please do. Send it to
literally
our email at overboard cast at gmail.com.
I'll have it linked.
Yeah. And but no sexual assault allegations. He started from the bottom.
Now he's here.
started from the bottom. He is the only presidential candidate at this, if he is truly running, like, that understands what it is like to live in poverty and
Okay, but
to
at the same
not
time,
have money, and they know what it's like for underprivileged communities. Biden doesn't know shit.
and Trump doesn't know shit, but
Like, Biden wants to say he knows stuff, but he's not going to fight for those people, because the only reason Biden's in the race here is because he wants to get Trump out of office. Biden doesn't have a vision for anything. That's the only reason he's there, is to get Trump out.
my
Now,
thing
Trump,
is, though,
on the other hand, is just blah. Like,
with Kanye, though, it's just like he barely speaks that like as it is. Like, think about it this way: like, Obama was black. He was born in
half black. He's biracial,
whatever.
just like us.
So are we? Yeah. And he didn't. He was president for 8 years, and he didn't do anything for
The black community.
So, like, just because somebody is one color doesn't mean that they're better. Like, they're better fit for the minority, I guess, if that makes sense.
That's true, but Obama is also a politician, so he knows how it works. You know,
but he didn't do anything.
And I
Like,
think
he knows how it works, but he didn't do anything.
politicians don't do anything. They just collect their money and protect. Like, this is kind of jumping ahead, but like, I feel like their actions are just performative to act like they're doing what the people really want,
But they're not actually.
not. Like, I know, like, we're about to talk about this, will probably segue into Black Lives Matter, and but you know, like, on your point, like, people started painting the streets of all these cities, right? Like, these movements that happened over this month, these protests, have been about changing the laws in place.
Yeah.
And only a couple places, like Colorado, has introduced and started working on legislation,
Right.
to, you know, reform how policing is done in America.
Yeah.
That's what the people want. Not these paintings that say Black Lives Matter across the street in New York. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's like not really. I mean, obviously it's showing support, but it's not really making a difference.
No, it's not. It's really just performative. Like, we need real action. Like, when, I don't know, hold on. We're still on the Kanye topic.
Yeah, we'll get back to Black Lives Matter, because we will talk about that.
But I think, I don't know, like, I think Kanye, he might not know anything about politics, but neither does Trump. I don't know. While I don't agree with Trump didn't know crap about politics, right? And he became a politician. And the amount of things he has been able to do in his time as president, even if we don't like them, you know, like ICE and tightening the borders and building the wall and remaking trade deals with other countries, like, that's huge, and that takes a long time. And he's done that. He's made that a priority over the course of these years. You know, he doesn't take no for an answer. And I'm hoping that's the kind of way Kanye would be too, is because Kanye doesn't know a lot about how politics works. You know, he would, I don't know, like, light the fire under Congress's butt somehow, or do some executive orders. I don't know.
Because
I like to be hopeful, you know, but
I feel like it's just the same, like, freaking cycle over and over again with no matter who's president, where there's something that's not good enough about them, so Congress doesn't want to agree with anything that they do, so nothing ever gets passed. Like, that happened with Obama, that happened with Bush, that's happening with Trump. It's just like, it doesn't matter who they are, which side they're for, a Democratic or Republican. like somehow they always get blocked from doing what they want, which leaves us at a standstill as a country.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother thing. Like that comes down to like the fact that we emphasize the president and the president's power more than paying attention to our
Who's in
actual
Congress.
senators and our representatives are, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they're the ones who make the laws.
Yeah.
We could sit here and blame Trump, for a lot of stuff. And it's arguable that he's at fault for a lot of things. But at the end of the day, it's Congress who writes the legislation. They get paid.
Passed.
Like that is their job. They get paid for that.
Yeah.
And instead they just take their vacations, and then lobbyists come, and then the lobbyists write legislation and then give it to the senators and the representatives, and then give the senators and representatives money to push that legislation. So they don't even have a hand in writing it. They just get to say, oh yeah, like I accepted money for this. But I don't know. I think it would be a step in the right direction, possibly with Kanye, at least for getting more minorities in office, because I feel like Kanye would pick, hopefully, a vice president that is a person of color.
Well, then we'll get into this once we get into the Black Lives Matter, because we still have another 2 topics to cover, but we're going to come back to that. But going along with the president, the whole Ghislaine thing.
Okay. Yeah. So positive, but also negative at the same time, folks. Positive.
Could be negative. It could end up negative.
They got Ghislaine Maxwell, and like, yo, that's hype, right? Like,
and if you don't know, Ghislaine Maxwell is connected to Epstein and says that she's going to name names of people that are
related to Epstein Island and the sex trafficking there. And so she got captured and they got her in custody. I was reading though, like, did they put her in the same jail that Epstein died in?
I think so. I don't know for sure, but I think so.
Like,
and I just think it's like,
that's step. Like what?
My thing is like you see all over Twitter right now, like people placing bets on when she's going to end up dead, because Epstein didn't kill himself. Right. But so I just think it's like it could be negative, because if she ends up dead, nothing's going to come out. Positive would be that she does end up getting to trial or whatever and saying the names and things getting investigated. But even then, like, are they going to be investigated properly? Is there going to ever be like an outcome? Because a lot of stuff recently has not been investigated properly.
Right. And it's been blocked by the government.
Yeah. And it's like, are they going to make it a public thing, or is this going to be a trial behind closed doors where they can manipulate what we as the country hear, So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. As of right now, she's in jail, and they gave her paper clothes at the correction facility, and she's accordingly on suicide watch, but so was Epstein when he committed suicide.
Exactly.
They took all the sheets and stuff out of her bedroom or out of her room so that she couldn't like tie her neck and try and hang herself like Epstein.
My question is, didn't she come in on her own free will? Like, didn't she turn herself in? Or no?
I don't know. It says she was arrested. I don't know if I can't find anything that says she turned herself in or not.
Huh.
I don't know if she was hiding. I'm sure she's pretty easy to get to, but
Yeah.
Um,
It's just like going along with the whole sex trafficking thing. Like it came to light that in the courts, I'll try to find the link to the article or the video of it, but that these kids that are being kept in the cages and stuff
oh God.
in retention are being sold into sex trafficking rings by the guards and stuff.
I wouldn't doubt it.
No, it's like it's been
Oh, it's a fact?
proven. Yeah, that's
Oh.
a fact. Like I'll try to find the video and link it so that people know that I'm not.
That's just like so crazy to me. Like, how is there such a huge human trafficking ring? Like, where does it stem from? Like, if there's a secret society that's out there, right? Like,
Yeah.
Illuminati, like that's all the Illuminati does is sex traffic people, then is
Yeah.
and sell slaves. Cause like it just seems like you can't get away from it. You know, like
It's everywhere. And
hear
like
all
the
this
problem
stuff.
is like with like just cops in general, and not saying all cops are part of a sex trafficking ring, but like there's been videos coming out since the protest have started where cops have been seen putting like young kids into vans that aren't cop cars and driving off with them and saying that that's not what's happening, but like obviously it's what's happening. So
Yeah.
and it's like if they're in authority, like anybody who's in authority, like it's just so easy for them to get away with it because they have the means to like, you know, listen to radio calls and do all of that stuff.
Yeah, like these people in power, and it's messed up. So did you hear about the in Milwaukee there were 2 teenage girls that were missing in Milwaukee, and this was last month.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a crowd around the house, this house, and they tried to, like, these people all surrounded this house and tried to call the police to say like, hey, these 2 teenage girls who are missing were gone.
Yeah.
And then it not only did it take the police like a long time to get there,
Mm-hmm.
basically the person who was in the house got away. And then after the police like were investigating it, the back of the house caught on fire.
Just happened by chance. Yeah.
And
that's what I'm saying. It's just like one of those things where it's like so easy for people in power to cover it up. And I'm not saying that everybody in power is a part of it, but like it'd be really hard to get away with doing that as just an average person.
Yeah. So literally the police came to this crime scene after the people got away, and they like all of a sudden this fire gets started in the house, and there's a van, right? And apparently there was a bloody pair of shorts found in the van. And so all that evidence got caught on fire.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know.
That something doesn't sound right about, like, that just doesn't seem right. Like,
yeah.
At all. Like, it's a crime scene at that point, and like the police were like reluctant to do anything about it, right? Like they weren't trying to, you know, figure anything out. They weren't trying to help these people.
Yeah.
You know, they were trying to get everybody back away from this house, and meanwhile these people in this neighborhood are trying to save these 2 little girls, and the perpetrators got away because the cops didn't respond.
Yeah. It's just kind of like a scary thing to think about, and also like the fact that it just happens, like it happens everywhere. And like one day you're just fine, and then the next day like someone's missing, they're gone, and you might never see them again. And it's also like who's buying these kids, and where are they going, and what are they doing?
with them. Yeah, and you never know. Like they probably get. I don't know. It's it's crazy time we live in, but yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, like we said, Ghislaine Maxwell has been arrested. Um, and
So hopefully
hopefully
maybe
she gives some names that hold some weight, and we can start cracking down on this because it's absolutely disgusting.
yeah. Did you hear about I don't want to pronounce her name wrong. I want to say it's Naya Riviera. Her and her she was on Glee. She was
One of the
an actor
Glee
on Glee, and
stars.
she's a singer too. And she has been missing as of right now, as the day of we're recording this. She's still missing. Her and her 4-year-old little boy were out on Lake Piru, I think. And the boy was found about 3 hours later on the boat. The boat was just drifting in the water, and he was sleeping. The 4-year-old little boy was sleeping, and his mom was nowhere to be found. And so they've been looking for her and scouring this lake for her, and have yet to come up with anything or find her body or anything.
That's terrifying.
And at first, a lot of people were skeptical because, like, she didn't jump in with her life vest, so obviously she knew how to swim and stuff. And so people were like, how did that happen? Because apparently, like, the little boy, I mean, he's 4, so I don't know how well you can trust like what a 4-year-old says, or like how well he's going to get out what he means. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
But
he doesn't know any better.
according to the articles that I've been reading, the little boy said that he he was in the water with his mom. He got back onto the boat and she never did. So a lot of people were skeptical about that at first. Like, how did she just like disappear? Like with a 4-year-old, like, why didn't she get back on the boat with him? Like, what happened? All of this stuff. And then today, a bunch of people have been talking about how that lake is notorious for having whirlpools that pull you under like 6 feet or something like that.
Oh wow!
And so that's what I think most people are thinking right now. And apparently that lake doesn't have any like warning signs or anything about whirlpools, but there's been multiple deaths from whirlpools on that lake, which I think is so dumb. Like, you would think that like you would at least like there would be a sign, or when you get a boat there, they would like tell you. I don't know, but it's really scary. And the fact that they haven't, I think it's been over 24 hours, probably. Yeah, I think it's been over 24 hours at this point, and they still haven't found her body. It's just kind of scary. But as of right now, she's considered missing, and a lot of people are still in high hopes that maybe they'll find her alive, which, I mean, at this point, like, I don't know if that's super.
Yeah, well, that's really weird because it's just like if she was in the water with her son, like, she can't just like, she had to have drowned somehow,
Yeah. And then like some people were saying they were skeptical because like the little boy fell asleep or something. And I was like, well, I mean, if he was crying, little kids cry themselves to sleep. So
right.
Like that would make sense. But people were like, well, he just fell asleep and he didn't even like wasn't scared for his mom or anything. Like, if I was a 4-year-old, I'd be crying and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, but you're not a 4-year-old, then you don't know what goes through a 4-year-old's
This is all
mind.
3 hours later. He probably cried for 2 hours straight and then fell asleep for that last hour,
Yeah. So
that's wild.
It's just super.
Dude.
That's like another like sad story. Like what
is going on 2020?
Yeah, so prayers go out to their family and to the little boy, and hopefully, I mean, maybe there is a chance she's still alive, and hopefully if she is, that they find her and are able to get her the help they need. But
yeah,
it's really sad. So I guess let's just get to the main thing that's, I guess, happened in June, which was the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement. Which I feel like we should start off by clarifying for the people who don't know what exactly the Black Lives Matter movement is for, because a lot of people just think that everyone, like all these Black people, just want to get rid of the police altogether, which is not what it is about at all. So I feel like we should just start by explaining that a little bit. So what I believe the movement is about more so is making sure that they're getting proper training, because I mean, think about it this way, like nurses and stuff, they have what, like 4 years, 5 years, 6 years of training to deal with people, to deal with people. And cops have like 3 months or something like that. Like, it's not a significant amount of time. They're not properly trained. And I think what this protest is about more so is just making sure that they're getting significant training, not only with, weapons, but with de-escalation, and not just for Black people, but for all people. Like, I feel like there's a big stigma right now that Black Lives Matter is just about Black people.
And it's not. Like, yes, the name says Black in it, but it's not. That's not the point of what the movement is. That makes sense. Yeah, the point is that, the police. The point is that the Black community believes and has deemed the police a threat to them because of unlawful deaths, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, I don't care what anybody says, no cop gets to decide if you get to die.
Yeah.
Like, it's not their job. It's not constitutional, because once again, you are considered innocent unless proven guilty in the court of law.
Yeah.
Constitution right there. So to even have officers who their first resort is to absolutely beat somebody or shoot them, that's insane, dude. Like, it doesn't matter if you're Black, white, or, like Mexican, and it doesn't matter. Like, any person should not be getting abused by the police. Like, even if they like resist arrest, I don't think a cop should be able to kneel on a man's neck.
Well, not only that, but like, I feel like the biggest problem is like not only the physical force that they use, but the fact that like their first resort, especially with Black people, is to pull out their gun.
Yeah.
Like, without evidence of there actually being a gun on the other person, if that makes sense. Like, when you see a white person get pulled over, you normally don't see a cop reach for a gun. But for some reason, when they see a Black person, that's their first instinct, which I think is just like a horrible stereotype that has been placed on Black people for like the longest time, is that everybody has a gun and every Black person is a threat to your life, which is like so not the case.
It's so far from it. Like, it's like, just
me and Anthony, we're Black and white. My mom is white, our dad is Black. Been around Black people. Never once have I seen a Black person with a gun. Not a single time.
Never. Not in Detroit. Not in Flint. Maybe
and I went to school
hanging out in
Flint.
the right areas, but I mean, it still doesn't mean, like, I've seen more white males
with a gun than I have
with guns openly walking around, but at the end of the day, even if they have a gun, that's our Second Amendment right. Like, even if they have a gun, it's our Second Amendment right.
Let's be fair. I don't think that either side should be pointing a gun at either one of them.
No, yeah.
Unless it is, like, if, like, I will be fair on that. Like, I don't think if you have a gun, you shouldn't be reaching for it in that type of situation.
Should not be pointed at another human, no.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be fair on that one. But I just think they need like more funding, or not more funding. They would need more
Better training.
And then also like a thing that I was thinking about is how much funding they do have and where exactly is all that money going. Because it's like the amount of funding, like most of these, what do you call them? Departments or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that what you call them?
Police departments.
Are getting like over 50 million in funding. And it's like, where exactly is that money going? Because if you think about it, cops, they keep the same, like handcuffs, same taser, same whatever. They keep all their equipment for however long they're there. They don't get new stuff often. Same uniforms. When they retire, they have to return their uniform. So it's like these things are being reused over and over again. So it's like their budget, and that budget isn't going towards getting new equipment every year, like, or at least not a substantial amount. They're obviously not getting the training that they need. So the money's not going there. So where exactly is the money going? And like, I think another that's what the defunding is of that you hear in Black Lives Matter is they should, like, where's the money going that they need that much? That money could easily be reallocated to the education system, which is completely failing. And like, even in good areas, it's failing.
Especially in these inner city areas.
Well, not even that. Like, we lived in, the school we went to and grew up in, we were in like I would say middle class area.
It's a middle class. Yeah, this is a middle class suburb.
And when you graduated, they cut half of the teachers off.
Yeah.
And then my sophomore year, they let go even more. And then my senior year, they not only fired or laid off or whatever, another handful of teachers, but they also switched the schedule around because we were doing an A-day, B-day schedule, which is you have 4 classes one day, 4 classes the next, and then it continues over and over again. But they changed it to like the normal 7 class schedule because they didn't have the money to fund it. And it's like that's a well-funded school, in my opinion.
It was a well-funded school.
Yeah, and they can't even do it. So like, I can't even imagine what going into a school that's in like a lower class area would be like.
Well, yeah, especially because they have higher populations too than our school even did, and they have half of the resources. And it's
just like that money could easily go towards
education back into the community. It could go into
eliminating student debt, could
food profits to keep people fed and off the street, like
even like I think it was New York, their budget was like 53 or 54 million or something
for police,
or their funding per year. And it's like, even if you just cut like 10 million off of that could easily go towards the education system and dramatically boost all these schools. Just $10 million.
Well, even like, I want to know where the money comes from. Like you said, like, where does the money even come from to fund our police? Because does it come from our military budget? Or is that a whole separate like budget or calculation? Because think about it, like, these police officers, like, they have tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Ann Arbor police and the Washtenaw area around here in Lower Detroit, they have tanks. They have military grade weaponry, right? And that cost a good amount of money. But again, it's just like, why do they have that? Like, under what circumstances will they use that? Are those circumstances, are they going to use it against actual civilians in case of like a riot? Is that what you use for riot? Like, why do they have all this tear gas for protests? Why do they have all these rubber bullets for protesters? Why do they have all these riot shields for protesters?
Right.
But they can't educate people properly. They can't. Cops don't even get paid that much, dude.
They get paid more than
They
the average person does.
They get paid more than the average person, but again, they still don't get paid as much as they could, like, and they have all this equipment for stuff they never use. This could go into training. This could go into social services that could keep people off the streets, build up the community. Shit, I'm sure you could put like a couple million of that police fund and put it in a minority business fund or something to promote minority businesses within the community, right? Like, there's so much they can do with the money. And we're not like, again, it's not about decreasing the number of police. It's not about it's the whole movement, despite what anybody says, is about holding people accountable.
And honestly, like, it doesn't even just stop with the movement, doesn't even just stop with police. Like, since this movement has started, I've seen an uproar and people coming out about their sexual assaults. I've seen not only a bunch of unjust Black killings, but a ton of unjust white killings as well, posted by Black people
in support. Yeah, people are coming
saying
together.
Like, this is wrong. Like, what else have I seen? I've seen people are starting to really understand supporting small business rather than bigger businesses. Like, this movement has drastically changed, I guess, how our future can look, I guess, and the fact that people are able to, like, feel like they have a voice.
Yeah. And not only that, like, back to the point where you said about businesses and small businesses, that's a big thing. Like, especially during this COVID epidemic, like right now, like, small businesses need our support more than ever. And it's nice because, like, I live in Ypsilanti and there's tons of Black businesses around here. You don't know about them
because nobody,
but or at least I didn't know about them. But now that this has happened, I think the Black Lives Matter movement and the community, like, there's been a push for minority business, which has been awesome. Minority owned businesses, small businesses, so we can start building the community and kind of leveling the playing field, right? Because it's like, as of right now, the main people who get their are in charge of commerce in cities and municipalities around the country it's like mostly just white folks who have been doing this for a long time. And
to the people that are saying, like, the all lives matter, like, all lives do matter. That's why this movement is here, because they're trying to make that so that all lives matter, because it's, as of right now, it's not fully true. And there is, and a lot of people are like, well, racism's not even as bad as it used to be, and we've made so many improvements, and, like, you guys just don't even know because you're not old enough, you weren't there and stuff. And it's just like, just because you've come like 70% of the way does not mean that you don't have to go the full 100%. The whole 100%. And it's just like, there is, like, even with these protests firing up, you see, like, the amount of racism that I've seen just from these protests is insane.
Like, people
like
have
the KKK rallies have been going on, and like all of this other stuff, and it's like, that's still here, and yet you guys are saying that it's not a problem.
Exactly. And that's like, that's scary. Like, that's one of the scariest things, that though these racists will have they have a platform right now to speak. And it's not like my issue that's coming, the issue that we're seeing, like you said, with this racism coming out of all these protests, is how do these people, like, think that is okay to just let racists have a platform like that.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're like, these are the same people who are like, I'm not a racist. I don't see color. I love all colors and people.
Yeah.
I don't see it that way. But then as soon as you say, oh, these guys are waving Confederate flags and it's a KKK rally, they never say, oh, well, those people should be arrested, or those people deserve to be pepper sprayed, or those people deserve to be shot with rubber bullets.
Yeah. And it's
When
like
they
the
are
same.
they're spreading hate. The protesters that were getting sprayed with pepper spray and bullets and tear gas for Black Lives Matter, they weren't even doing any. Like, most of them weren't even doing it. There was a couple instances where you saw riots, but they became riots because the police decided to start tear gassing them, to start pushing protesters around, to start arresting protesters. And when you start pressing people who are already very clearly angry about something and then push them with violence and start attacking them, that puts you into fight or flight mode. So some people are going to flee. The people who are fighting, that's a riot right there. And that is perpetuated by the police in their training and their action and how they dealt with the protesters. They could have easily not blocked off the protesters who were marching. They could have easily, but
and in the cities where they didn't, they were completely peaceful. There was no problems.
Right.
And like, my thing is like, the people that are saying like, oh, well, they shouldn't fight the police and they should just listen and stuff. And like, they were rioting. That's why the police came in. It's like, those same people didn't watch these live streams that have been going on.
No.
They didn't see what it was like before the police came. And yet they're saying this. And it's like, if you didn't see it, you can't make assumptions. And I think that's the problem with media nowadays, is people just put what they want to put out there and they don't look into it. So you see something on Twitter and you're like, oh, I believe that. Or you see something on the news and you're like, well, it's on the news, so it has to be true.
Right.
And like, you don't get the full story. I don't think there's any news outlet out there that you get the full story.
There's very few, because
I don't think there's any, like, truly, that show
not
the entire full story of it, because how can you? If it's one person writing the article, you get it from that one person's view. You know what I mean? So it's like,
that is very true. It's always skewed no matter what.
Right.
Even
and it's
if
just
they
like,
say it's objective.
You need to research what you're doing what you're saying before you say it, because people are like, well, they were doing all this before the police came and stuff, and it's like, were they? Like, did you see the videos? Because I have, and I didn't see any of that.
That's not. So. They were all. If you watch the live streams, anyone who watched the live streams, I watched the live streams of Detroit and of the ones in Los Angeles, and the Detroit Free Press was on the front lines, and right with the front of the protesters and right on the line, like in between the police and the protesters, they were getting footage. And that was the most horrifying thing I've ever saw. It's these people, and they were marching down the street. They're doing their protest, no vandalizations going on. I mean, the most that they're doing is blocking traffic, but
well, that's like
every protest, every march, every protest that is in the form of a march takes place in the middle of the street. Like,
well, not even that, but they had that visual, the violin visual, and they were in a public park or something. They weren't in the street. Everybody was just sitting down listening to these people playing violins.
For Elijah McClain.
And they were just sitting there. They weren't in the streets. They weren't blocking any sideworks. They weren't blocking any businesses. They were sitting in a park listening to violins, and then they get pepper sprayed because of it. And it's like, okay, like you're saying we can't be in the streets, you're saying we can't be here. Like, where can we be? Yeah.
Apparently, you got to do it like the people who didn't like the quarantine and the lockdown, and you got to show up to the state capitol with guns strapped to your back.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that's what was horrifying. Like the Detroit protests, watching that live stream was like these peaceful protesters, and then the police start coming at them with riot shields and billy clubs, and then they arrest a few people and start marching towards the protesters, blocking the protesters' way. And the protesters are facing off with the police, not doing it. They're still not throwing rocks. They're still not throwing things at the police. They're just chanting. They're just yelling. And then the police just start tear gassing them and shooting rubber bullets at them and stuff. And you're just like, how? Like,
yeah. And
I don't understand. Like, I literally don't understand how that is the response to a peaceful protest. And then when chaos ensues, they sit down and turn around and they say, these protesters were violent. They were rioting and breaking stuff. And yes, it got to that point, but that's because you literally like kicked a hornet's nest. Like they tear gassed and shot rubber bullets at a hornet's nest and expected Minneapolis, expected Los Angeles, in whatever other city, maybe Seattle or something, expected them not to get angry and go crazy.
Yeah.
To protect themselves, protect their own. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. This is crazy times. But I hope what comes out of this again is what we talked about earlier, is not that performative activism. Like, we don't want Nancy Pelosi and all these other congressmen walking into Congress in kneeling down with kente cloth on. Like, that's racist in itself. Like, to be wearing kente cloth, trying to say you're being supportive and solidarity, just pass the laws that need to be passed and make that a priority. I don't want to see that you're down with the cause. Just make the laws, do your job.
Yeah, exactly. And like another thing I've been hearing is like the Confederate flag isn't like racist. It's not a racist flag. And it's like, okay, even if let's just say it wasn't in the beginning at all, let's just say that, it has become racist today because that's what racist people use as a sign.
Yeah, like whenever you see a KKK rally, what flag are they always
They're
have?
flying the Confederate flag.
It's it's a Nazi flag, or it's a fat red swastika, or it's the Confederate flag, and also the American flag. So,
and it's like that thing. It's like, okay, if you believe it wasn't, then maybe it wasn't. Okay, believe that. But now I'm telling you that today it is racist.
It is. Yeah.
Like, even if it wasn't in the past, that's what it has become today because of how people use it and how when people bring it out, they bring it out when they're doing something racist. Like, since all these rallies have started, you've seen people hang up Confederate flags around their houses that are racist, or people who are, yelling at people have Confederate flags tattooed on themselves. It's like, maybe it wasn't back then, but it is now.
It really is now. And it's just a symbol of, like, I don't know. It's crazy. So, like, again, me and Jenny are from Michigan, right? Mm-hmm. And the amount of people that have Confederate flags in Michigan is like kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense because Michigan is the North. Like, we're literally bordered with Canada. Like, we're pretty as far north as you can get, and these people have Confederate flags and they're like, woohoo, Southern heritage. And we don't have Southern accents in Michigan. I don't care where you are in Michigan, you don't have us. We definitely have a Midwest, corn-fed accent, but we do not have a southern accent
yeah,
by any means.
Nowhere in Michigan,
and
not even in the UP.
And you have these people in Michigan waving their Confederate flags around, and they're like, "Yeah, man, it's Southern heritage." I'm like, "Well, do you have family from the South?" They're like, "No."
Okay.
You live in the suburb. You live in a rural area around a suburb in Michigan, right? And that makes you country. And then they're like, yeah, I do blue collar farm work and I go hunting. I'm like, that doesn't make you Southern. That just makes you a normal human being. Like, people have been
Yeah.
hunting since the beginning of time.
Like everybody in Michigan hunts.
Blue
I
collar
don't, but
work
most
is
people do.
absolutely normal. Yeah, everybody in Michigan hunts. Again, we are one of the farthest north states in the
Yeah.
country. We had the underground railroad running through Michigan for slaves to get into Canada because we were known for our free thinking and progressive mindset. Like, Michigan is the last place Southern heritage would be, in my opinion. You know, like, I was born in Texas, y'all. Like,
Y'all.
I am more Southern than any person in Michigan who was born in Michigan and is repping one of them Confederate flags.
Yeah, I don't. There's just so much
I
wrong
digress.
with like the world right now.
People are just silly. They're just silly gooses, man. It's and it really comes down to education. This is one of those things.
Yeah,
It really comes down to education right now, and
making sure you know all the facts before you
I'm
make
not
an
saying,
opinion.
and like, everybody wants to say education and, oh, schools are brainwashing you too, and it's like, it's not. It's just like, learn the information and then
Well,
make
my
up
thing
your
is
own
like
mind.
I've
But
been in college for 2 years and I've never heard. I haven't taken any history classes and I've never heard a single, like, my opinion is not swayed by the classes I take.
right,
Never heard.
it should never be.
Yeah.
Like, you learn, I mean, obviously you learn the information and then you make up your own opinion, but it's not like teachers are sitting there cramming a certain ideology down your throat. Now, like, I'm sure that there are professors
that do that, but there's
that
that's
think
not
a certain way.
Yeah.
I have had a professor personally who thinks a very certain way and would try and make it think that make
his
you
way
think
is the right way.
is the right way to think. But as an individual, everybody in the class understood
That's just what he thought.
that's just what he
Formed their own
thought. It
opinion.
didn't represent, what he was teaching us was for us to learn, and it was good for us to learn, but it helps us make better choices in the future when we weigh those options, when we critically think. And I don't know what it is about critically thinking these days, but people just think it's too hard. So they got to believe the first headline they see on Facebook, the first headline they see on Twitter, the first headline they
See on the news.
see on Instagram. Like, I'm gonna say this right now too. Like, if you get your news, if you found it on Facebook, if you found it on Twitter, if you found it on Instagram, that is not a credible source.
You need to look harder.
It's not a credible source. I don't care what it is. Like, it's a people's opinions. Most things that get posted on social media platforms are opinionated posts because they fit the proper marketing algorithm that the computer looks for to broadcast to you, because you are a number.
Yeah.
People are trying to get money from you. They're just pandering to you to get that money out of you. So it's not, if it's on social media, probably not true. I don't even care if it's from a reputable news source. If it's if it was posted on social media, type it in somewhere else, search it somewhere else.
Right.
Look for more information on it, because Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Chisel, my nizzle.
And while we're on like the topic of Black Lives Matter, I want to go a little bit further and say, let's just talk about stereotypes in general, because obviously the main stereotype about Black people is that they're all dangerous or threatening or thieves. And the main stereotype about white people is that they are privileged and they don't care about anybody else. And the main stereotype about, whatever, Mexicans is that they're illegal. And the main stereotype about all the, like, my thing is like, if you don't, for instance, going back to the whole gun thing, like, to anybody listening right now, have you ever seen a black person with a gun? If you haven't, where does your fear come from about being around a black person? And same thing with a white person.
Movies don't count. Movies don't count, by the way.
Yeah, a movie doesn't count. I'm talking
Like,
about in person, like face to face, you saw somebody with a gun.
And on that point, like, even for black people, every white person you come across is not racist.
Yeah.
Is not thinking that they're better than you, you know, like
there's people out, like there's people out there that support you. Not every white person is a racist. Not every black person is a threat to your life. Not every Mexican is illegal. Like, if you, and my thing is, like, so many people learn from what their parents say or what from media says, and it's like, okay, but have you seen it in person? Like, has it happened to you in person? Have you, like, have these things actually happened to you? Have you seen it? Or are you basing off your opinion off of something that your ancestors told you? Or, you know, like all this stuff, like people, like racists that pass on racism to their kids. It's like, as the kid, have you seen that? Or are you just going off what your parents have told you?
Well, at that point, they are, you know, like the kids are just going off what their parents have learned. Like,
it's just like one of those things. It's like, you need to, like, don't just follow blindly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't want to compare this to like the Holocaust, but like, for instance, Hitler, he had this notion that all these Jews were bad. And then all of a sudden, all these other people started deciding the same thing. And now all of a sudden, all these Jews are being killed for the fact that they're a Jew, with no evidence that they actually were a problem, like, other than the word of Hitler. And all these people follow blindly. And that's the same thing with racism, is like, you hear it or you learn it from one person and then you just apply it to everyone, and not just racism, but all stereotypes. It's like, you hear it from somebody and then you apply that to every single other person that fits in that criteria, like their skin color, or if they're a Jew. Like, you can't just, that was one of the worst, like, genocides ever. And it was all because one person said, hey, let's kill all these Jews.
Yep.
They're not good. And it's
and
like,
got a whole nation. And I don't know, we see that a lot, like with people calling out certain, you know, cultures, and we can't do that. Like,
I don't know. I think just people need to be more like mindful of what, not only what they're saying, but also the stereotypes that they believe in, and not just in the terms of a black person, but in all races, in all, just all stereotypes, I guess. Like, if you haven't met that person, or you haven't, like, form your own opinion based off of what you've seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
mean, what you're saying is like, don't stereotype a person. Like, it's really freaking simple.
Yeah.
Not to
like,
stereotype
yes, are
a person.
there bad black people out in the world? Yes. Are all black people bad? No.
No.
Are there bad white people in the world? Yes. Are all of them bad? No. It's just like one of those things.
Yeah. It's just one of those things, man.
Yeah. And then I guess we can move on
Moral
to
of the story, don't stereotype. And just don't be a butthole.
Yeah.
For real. Like,
just like,
who
let people
are
live,
you?
you know?
Yeah, like, who are you to try and bring darkness into another person's day? Like, people deal with darkness enough, things that can bring them darkness in their own life. And if you as an individual are intentionally bringing darkness to another person's life, doing shady stuff, I mean, this can sum up our whole podcast for today. If you are doing things that could bring darkness to another person's life, get out. What are you
Literally.
doing?
Yeah.
Like, don't you think it's this way? Like, you literally have to go out of your way to be a bad person.
You really do.
Like,
And it's just like,
you have to go out of your way to be a good person too, or maybe, but like, you can just be neutral. Just be normal, you know, like
be neutral.
just be neutral. Don't do bad or good. You can sit in your house and do nothing all day.
Yeah.
But don't bring another person down. But you really do. You really have to go out of your way to be a bad person. Like, you can be neutral, you can be normal, you can be good.
Stop.
It's not hard, guys. It's literally not hard to not be a bad person. It's not hard. It's not hard to not bring darkness into another person's day. Like, it's not hard. If you can bring light into another person's day.
And just to like end off this whole entire podcast, just when it comes to like the sickness, whether it's COVID, whatever it is, sickness, racism, rape, bullying, whatever, just because it's not affecting you or you don't see it or it's not happening to you, it doesn't mean that it's not real for somebody else. It doesn't mean that it's not happening to somebody else. And it doesn't mean that it's not an important cause to be talking about. So just keep that in mind when you're saying things about, you know, whether it is sickness or racism or rape. Like, just because it's not happening to you does not mean it's not bad or
it's not happening,
it's not important.
You know?
I don't know. Just keep that in mind. And just a sincere thank you to everybody who tuned in and listened all the way up until this point, because this is a more serious podcast. And we do want to spread positivity and light. And the fact that you guys are listening and tuning in is a lot of support. And we are very thankful for it. And
very much.
Yeah, just spread the light, I guess. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah.
You know where to find us. We'll be in the links below if you don't. And we'll see you on the next episode.
We'll get to steadier waters eventually.